Hi guys, it's Steph here from the Novelty Corner. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to my Read Digital February TBR. For those of you who are unfamiliar with this, I am starting a monthly challenge where my goal is to spend a week reading books off my Kindle. Now, the Read Digital Challenge is not limited to ebooks. You can listen to audiobooks, you can read webcomics or short stories or novellas online, whatever you want to do, but the purpose is to sort of clear some of the digital backlog you have for your TBR, which I think probably gets overlooked a little bit for some people in light of physical TBRs, because physical TBRs are present and you see them all the time. But my Read Digital Challenge is really about getting through those books that you've obviously purchased for a reason or downloaded for a reason or saved because you want to read them, and actually finding time and making time to do that. To do this, I have a bingo board. There is going to be one for every month of the year, the first one obviously being February. The challenge is taking place from the 23rd until the 29th, and I'm really looking forward to it. There are 9 prompts. You obviously do not have to find 9 books to meet all of the prompts. I have allocated 9 books. I'm not entirely sure I'm going to get to it because so far this month I haven't read all that much compared to what I normally read, but that's fine. I've allocated them, so I've got things to pick from, but I'm also not too worried about sticking to it. So if I change my mind, that's totally fine. It's very, very casual, loose, easygoing, etc. So I'm going to share with you my TBR, and I'm also going to give you a recommendation for each of the challenges as well. So if you're not sure what to read and you would like a recommendation, you'll get one as well. Okay, so the first challenge is to read a romance book. It is February. I'm going to be reading Headliners by Lucy Parker, which is book 5 in the London Celebrities series. I have this as an arc from NetGalley. I've been meaning to read it for ages, so I really need to get to it. I'm actually technically using this month to try and get through as many of my NetGalley arcs as I possibly can. However, if you're looking for a recommendation for a romance book, my current favourite is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne, which I read in January. I loved it. It is so fun. I highly recommend it. The next prompt is to read a book with 3 words in the title. For this, I'm going to be reading another NetGalley arc that I have, which is The Night Tiger by Yang Chu. I read her book, The Ghost Bride, last year or the year before. I really enjoyed it. I don't know all that much about it, except that I remember that I really enjoyed The Ghost Bride and I really wanted to read something else by the author. I could have pretty much picked anything as a recommendation for a 3-word title. I've gone with Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson because that was a really fun book filled with lots of really great banter. It is young adult. It's very easy to read. So if you haven't read it, that might be a good pick. For a book that was recommended to me, I'm going to be reading The Switch by Beth O'Leary. This, again, is a NetGalley arc. I've had it for ages. It's been out for a while. I think still haven't read it. I need to read it. Beth O'Leary is the author of The Flat Share, which I also have not read yet and I want to read. I've had a lot of people who have read The Switch say that they really enjoyed it, so I'm counting that as a recommendation. If you would like me to recommend you a book, I'm going to recommend Slave to Sensation by Nalini Singh, which is the first book in the Side Changeling series, because you guys know that I love this series and I'm desperate to reread it, so I'm recommending it to you. The next challenge is to read a book with pink or red on the cover. For this, I'm hoping to read The Beast of Beswick by Emily Howard. I actually have both a digital and a physical copy of this, but I'm going to read the digital version of it. It is historical romance, I think. Possibly the first historical romance I'll be reading. Oh no, sorry, that's not true. The recommendation I have is historical romance, but this will be the first one I've read since then. Historical romance is not something I go for very often. My recommendations, however, are either Moxie by Jennifer Matthew, which has a gorgeous bright pink cover, or the historical romance I mentioned, The Lady's Guide to Celestial Mechanics by Olivia Waite. Again, really fantastic female historical romance about women in sciences and the arts, and it's amazing. For my LGBTQIA+ square, I'm going to be reading Burnzone by Annabeth Albert. Again, this is another NetGalley arc. I love Annabeth Albert's work. This is her new series. I think it's the first book in her new series that follows maybe firefighters, or this book follows 2 firefighters, and I can't wait. It's been a while since I read one of her books and I really want to read a new one. If you are looking for a recommendation for an LGBTQIA+ book, I would recommend Two Boys Kissing by David Levithan, or even Queens of Geek by Jen Wild. Great representation in both. For the Choose Your Own Category square, which is going to be a feature every month, so you can make up your own category based off something you really want to read, I'm going with poetry because I have a poetry collection from NetGalley called 19 by Mackenzie Campbell. I should have read it already because it's not going to take me very long. So this one will be good because maybe I can read this plus something else in an evening, and that would be great. Obviously for this, the recommendations are going to depend on what you choose as your category. So maybe if you have chosen a category but you're not sure what to read, feel free to leave that down below. I'm happy to make a recommendation to you personally. However, I don't know. You could read anything. If you want sci-fi, read The Martian. If you want to read a more sci-fi fantasy type book, you could read Vicious by V. Schwab. If you want crazy adventure, read Ice Station by Matthew Riley, which is just ridiculous but so much fun. If you want something that's got more horror elements, Into the Drowning Deep by Myra Grant. I don't know. You can have at it, really. The choices are endless. For the square, a book you've been putting off, I'm going to read The False Prince by Jennifer A. Nielsen, which is a middle grade fantasy book. which has been on my Kindle for a very, very long time. Again, this prompt, it's really hard to make recommendations for it because it's going to depend on what you've been putting off, but let me know in the comments what you end up going with, because I'm really curious to know what kind of books people actually put off reading. I put off The False Prince because it's fantasy. Go figure. The second last challenge is to read a book with love in the title. For this, I'm going to read Love Her or Lose Her by Tessa Bailey, which is book 2 in the Hot and Hammered series, following on from Fixer Up from last year. I pre-ordered this, I still haven't read it, so this fits this prompt perfectly. And if you would like a recommendation for a book that has love in the title, I'm going to recommend an anthology of Australian young adult short stories called Begin and Begin, a Love Oz YA anthology edited by Danielle Binks. This is a great collection of short stories by fabulous, fabulous Australian authors. And for a book that has been on your TBR for 12 months or longer, I'm going to read The Change by Taylor Branton, which I think is an urban fantasy book, but that is all I know about it. I don't know very much because I think I just downloaded it randomly because I found it for free. So this is why I do this challenge, so I clear things off and actually, you know, have some accountability for what I download, because I'm pretty indiscriminate. I get a lot of recommendations from BookBub, and if they're free, I usually just click download without too much hesitation. Again, I can't really recommend anything for this challenge because this is going to depend on your particular TBR. So that is my TBR and my recommendations for you. In the comments below, let me know if you're participating, and if you have a TBR somewhere, feel free to link it. Otherwise, feel free just to list the books that you're reading for different challenges. Again, the challenges are there as guidelines. You do not need to follow them. You can just read whatever the hell you want. That is digital text. Go for it. Not policing this in any way. This is just a bit of fun. But I hope that if you join in, that you enjoy it and that you get through some of the things that you've been meaning to read for a while. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them down below. Otherwise, I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're having a wonderful day, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye guys.